everybody, this is Danielle. I teach at Stevens Middle School where most of my students are ELLs from Spanish-speaking homes. Today I'm talking about how students' first language, which would primarily be Spanish, transfers, how their proficiency in their first language transfers to English. Well, first of all, I want to start off by talking about Dr. Johnson's YouTube TED Talk on Spanglish and the article that he wrote titled A Critical Interrogation of the Language Gap. I made a connection to a college class that I had, should I tell you how many years ago? 30 years ago, long time ago, on Ebonics. Ebonics is a cultural language that in the time I grew up in was viewed as being just trashy, a sign of, a low economic, a group that was of low economic background, and it was tied in with the African American community. I went to high school in California where there was a strong mix of all kinds of people. I'm a military kid, so on our base there were a lot of different kinds of people, and Ebonics was just, at that time, was viewed as being very low class and not, it just wasn't honored. It was criticized. So when I went to college, I had a professor who did a portion of the class on Ebonics and honoring that as a sign of culture. So we've come a long ways, and when I read the article by Dr. Johnson, I'm just reminded that we need to really, evaluate our viewpoint of our students and how they come to us. I also, when I was watching the video and Dr. Johnson showed the sign about I think it was Spanglish is not spoken here. I guess I feel like I've kind of been of that. I've been of that, kind of ignorance. Even though I've had this background and I've had a diverse exposure to diverse groups, I value learning. I value looking into these cultures and really thinking about how valuable their experience is. So I have been to many classes over the course of years, and I would say the takeaway from these classes has been that, we use academic language, we give our students academic language strips, we try to really promote that type of formal language, and I haven't really heard much of anything about honoring the culture, the language that helps define the culture of my students. I know that in my class, my students, that they transfer between Spanish and English at different levels, and that it's noticeable when kids are providing Spanish words that students are missing because they can't think of the word. They also provide each other with English words. So I do know that having a lack of knowledge of words impacts the ability to communicate. So in my class, when I see my students doing that, I really appreciate it, because not being bilingual myself, I'm not able to assist them. I feel helpless. So they're doing a lot of that in my class. I feel like it does, if you can't express what you're thinking, it does affect your ability to really articulate, to really explore. But I don't think it's a sign of a lack of intelligence. And I think that's kind of the point of all of this, that we have to value where our students are, and the language that they're using is a part of their culture. This deficit orientation that Dr. Johnson speaks of is the attitude that I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, I think I've viewed my students as having language gaps, and that this is a deficit for them. And I think after reading the article and watching the video, the TED Talk, I'm going to go into my next year with a different attitude. I'm going to really reevaluate my idea that language patterns in school are superior to patterns found in low-income communities. In that Dr. Johnson's article, he talks about the fact that this is a false belief, and that you know, just believing that the way that people talk in different communities is effective and it works, and that there should be no judgment involved. I do think that when my students, that there are commonalities that help them between the two languages of Spanish and English, and I think that those related things really do help them. The better they are at speaking their own language, finding vocabulary words, I think that there is a relatedness that transfers over into English. I do think that communication has an effect on knowledge, and I think that it's necessary for knowledge transfer. These are things that I read in Dr. Johnson's article, and I also further researched it. And it seems kind of intuitive. So I do work hard with vocabulary in my classroom. I think that there's a relationship between language and culture, and fluency and cultural fluency. And I just know that based on what I've read, I'm going to have a different attitude and really start sharing with my students how much I value their language and where they're coming from. Thanks. Bye.